spraying foam is an addiction. And I went to an AA meeting and they told me to leave. It doesn't count. We're like watching the numbers every day, right? Looking like, are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? And then when it finally hit, we're like, damn, we actually did it. I don't need the smartest guy on the planet. I don't need somebody that thinks they know it all. We're looking for the little bit more humble person that says, I really want to learn to do something really well. I mean, everybody's told me for a year and a half now that, like, hey, what you're doing is not sustainable for the long run. And I'm like, hold my beer.
Welcome to Foam to Fortune, the ultimate podcast for spray foam insulation industry. Whether you're a contractor aiming to take your business to the next level or a vendor bringing innovation to the market, this is the place where success stories are shared, insider tips are uncovered, and the industry secrets are revealed. Join us as we dive into the journeys of the spray foam pros who turn their dreams into thriving empires and discover tools and strategies to build your own path to fortune. Ready to elevate your spray foam game? Well, let's get started. Foam to Fortune, where innovation meets inspiration. What's up, guys? I'm Spencer, your host of the Foam to Fortune podcast. And today is episode number 1. We have Dan Benedict of Spray Foam Arizona, and also the host of Toolbox Talks on Safety for all you spray foam contractors out there looking to be a little bit more safe on the job site. Welcome to the show, Dan.
Yeah, thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah, man. It's almost like deja vu.
Yeah, I know. That's right. Like we've done this before.
Yeah, sure, brother. Why don't we start off with you telling us what you guys do, how long you guys been in business, and how you guys got started.
So we're basically just, a foam contractor. If there's something that can be done with foam, if there's an application we can use for it, we do it. So right now, 4 rigs running. Seems like almost as hard as we can run them most days, but it's a family-owned company. My wife and I own it. Katie, my niece, is one of the lead sprayers on one of the rigs. My kids all help out with it every day. It takes a village to keep this company alive, but we kind of just keep grinding through it. And we're about 4.5 years in business right now.
Yeah.
Amazing by a lot of hard work and a lot of teamwork and a lot of long nights and early mornings to grow from just my oldest son Jackson and I spraying every day out of one rig to where we are today. We'd have never guessed we'd have grown this fast, this quick. Heck, we didn't know if we'd ever grow this big, but it's our version of big. Maybe it's not everybody else's, but
it's impressive. I mean, any business that's only been in business a short period of time of 4 years, I feel is where you guys have gotten to with 4 rigs is impressive.
Yeah.
I don't know what you guys are doing on an annual revenue basis, but I'm guessing 4 rigs, you're probably around $4 million a year.
Well, we just added 2. We just added 2 rigs back in December. So we were only running 2. And so we finally last year crossed the $1 million mark.
Nice.
And
that's huge for you.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, we were watching our QuickBooks. Like it seemed like they're towards the third quarter, into the fourth quarter of the year. We're like watching the numbers every day, right? Looking like, are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? And then when it finally hit, we're like, damn, we actually did it.
Did it.
So,
and is this your first business that you guys have owned?
Well, I grew up in a family business in the agriculture world. So as far as our own, just Kristen and I's, it really truly is the first one that's been not just a side hustle or something like that. And it's the first one that both she and I have been in together full time. It seems like for years we did a few things, and one of the others of us always had a full-time job outside of it somewhere else.
I'm curious, are you able to talk about working with your spouse?
As soon as she steps out the door, we can talk about it. But no,
I'm just curious how that goes, because I think there's sometimes difficulty with separating business and
personal, and then also still having this desire of like, hey, work is done. Like I still want to spend time with you.
Yeah, exactly. There's again, a lot of days that it's really hard to cut that line of, okay, we're business partners here, but there's the rest of our life beyond that. Sorry about that.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Dan,
Thought
did we
that was,
lose you? Oh, okay.
no,
Looks like
I'm here. Yeah, I thought that
connect.
was off. So, anyway, so the so it can get difficult, and then it's always when you have a difference of opinions, it's keeping those differences in the business versus at the dinner table that night.
Yeah.
Well,
it's also hard to separate, like, honey, I love you, but this is just a business decision that we need to make, and it's nothing personal.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. And that's a two-way street. There's times she tells me something and I get pissed, and it's like, oh, wait. She was just thinking for the good of the business, not my feelings. And yeah.
Yeah. It's not a personal attack. This is that she wants the best for us as a company.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. And she has a very logical approach to where she's coming from with her stuff. And most days I'd be very wise to listen.
That's most of us, men.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Women in general, I feel like, are the logical pieces, and the ones that are the voice of reason. Sometimes we're, I don't want to say we're dumb, but like we're just not thinking about some certain things.
Right.
So
exactly.
She's the one that kind of keeps you in your lane, per se, right?
Yeah. And it takes a lot of people to do that. Sometimes I can get on a wild tangent. So
yeah. So let's tell the viewers a little bit about like your I guess role within the company these days. 4 years later, are you still an addict spraying down there in the hot Arizona sun, or are you really kind of running your crews these days?
I am trying to transition out of a spray foam rig every day. But spray and foam is an addiction. And I went to an AA meeting and they told me to leave. It doesn't count.
That's fun.
It's really hard to get away from that. I've always enjoyed I get out, get a rig started, see like a building or a house that doesn't have any insulation in it, and just bust tail all day long. And at the end of the day, you look around and you're like, dang, I accomplished something today. I got a lot done today. And it's a different feeling of doing that yourself versus you had your crews out doing it and you gathered in some checks and things got going and everybody's ready to go for tomorrow. It's a different kind of reward. And so the days that I'm not spraying, I'm always looking over my shoulder for like, man, maybe I ought to find an excuse to go find one of the crews and start spraying a little bit. But it's a transition I'm really working my way out of, because we're to the point now that Kristen and I's value is more tied to the business operations than it is to the application of the foam.
Totally.
And it's just hard.
When you start getting to this level, you have to start to realize all those hats that you've been wearing for the last 4 years, you can start to actually pay somebody to do that, wear that hat that you've been wearing.
Yes. So they say that that's a possibility. I just have that's been one of my biggest struggles, is the letting some things go. The whole business had been just right in the tip of my fingers from the day it was created. And every little step, I've been, chest deep in everything. And so it's difficult to let some of that go. But again, I'm working on it. We have some really good people around us. I've got 2 really good crew leads right now that we're able to leave a lot to. Mm-hmm. And everything's still working good when I do that.
It's almost like obviously your father, you've already mentioned your kids twice, but it's almost like your baby and you're teaching it how to walk, and then, it's learning how to run, and now it's
Yeah.
jumping and it's going through this progression and
Yeah.
growing. And you're like, I can't, I mean, I miss my little girl that I used to hold her hand, and
Yeah.
so, yeah, I totally get that. As business owners, I've now been a business owner for, gosh, I want to say, close to 2 decades now.
Yeah.
It's weird. I kind of lose track of time with that, but um, that is a difficult thing, is realizing kind of you putting together your stop doing list. I need to stop doing X
Right.
because it is not helping my business. And a lot of
Yeah.
times, Dan, let's share with the viewers maybe some of your challenges that you've found. Sounds like you have a lot of family members working in the company, but when you were looking to hire employees, I know that's always been a big struggle with all the spray foam contractors I talk to.
Yeah.
Do you have any tips on, as you're growing, how to hire? Are you a fan of hiring somebody that has experience, or are you a fan of hiring somebody that's has no clue what's going on and then you teach them none of the bad habits?
So we have had a lot better success finding people that I mean, hungry is the best term I can give. Finding people that are ambitious and they want to try to get into something, to make money. They want to make a career out of something. And taking those people and kind of training them our way. That's where we've had the best luck. We've had some divas come through the doors of people that said, "Oh, I know this and I'm this and that." And some of them are very good applicators, but their personalities don't fit. They may be, "Oh, I'm just a sprayer," and they think that's all they need to do. And in our company, nobody's too big for any job, including myself.
Yeah.
And that's just our mentality, and it's part of our framework of our team, is that, yeah, you can't be afraid to do any job, and you're not too big or too important or too valuable for any job that needs to be done. And I think that leads to better morale and an easier flow throughout the day, because everybody knows that if they get behind on something, there's somebody sitting right there that can back them up.
True.
Um,
So there's a lot of
yeah,
cross training that happens in your company.
yeah, yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
which I think is great. I kind of always go back to my days when I was actually running kitchens as the executive chef,
Yeah,
and everybody had to know how to wash the dishes. They had to know how to be a prep cook. They had to know everything for the most
mhm,
part, just in case if somebody calls out sick, or you're not
yeah,
screwed. You
right,
need to
exactly.
know, like, that, hey, my company is going to continue if, Tommy calls out and,
Yep.
Sally has to jump in there and start spraying, that there's no, you know, business as usual, right?
Yeah, exactly. And we run pretty lean crews. Typically one of my rigs goes out, there's two people.
Yeah.
And so if you have a diva that's one person and a workhorse that's the other person, the workhorse is going to quit and leave you with the diva.
Yeah, exactly.
And
And you lose your
and
person.
yeah. And so we'd rather have two people that can do everything and know that the other person's willing to do it all. And it,
Mhm.
like I said, that dynamic is just so much better that way.
Is there any traits that you're looking for when you're out there looking to hire somebody on your crew? Besides, like, a
Um,
team player. I've heard you mention kind of team player, family atmosphere a lot, but is there anything that you're looking for particularly?
You know, we really look for people that are driven to do things right and people that are trainable.
Yeah.
I don't need the smartest guy on the planet. I don't need somebody that thinks they know it all. Um, we're looking for the little bit more humble person that says, "I really want to learn to do something really well."
Mhm.
And people that will just stop and listen. Um, uh, we have a great partnership with, like right now, we're spraying UPC foam, and the tech team at UPC. And I got to give Jeremiah Schoenberg a lot of credit
Heck
because
yeah.
he does a lot of hand holding at this organization.
Yeah.
Um, but, when we have people like that at our disposal to come in and teach, we need people that are receptive to that teaching.
Yeah.
And
So do you just go off of a person's resume and like an interview to figure out if they're receptive or if they're a good candidate, or are you guys putting people through like, I know this might be a little bit too high of expectations, but
yeah.
like a personality test?
So really most of our hiring is done in person. Sit down and talk to them face to face. Try to get a feel for them and then start them at the bottom and give them a trial run, give them a week and just see if they're going to fit or not.
Yeah.
Some guys will wash out in a day or two because they don't want the actual workload when they show up. And
They
then,
forget they're
yeah,
crawling in hot places and having to work for it. And
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
The last crew we put together was two guys, and we started them out on the roof of a hotel in the center of Phoenix in July.
Okay.
And 130 degrees is what I shot the top of that foam with the thermometer at the end of the day that day. And you want to know if a guy's going to last, put him up there,
Yeah.
you know? And so that's kind of our way of sorting them out. It just, yeah, try to get a good sense of them at the beginning. The people we hire typically don't have the professional resume or ever even been trained to really write a resume very well.
Mhm.
So we get more out of talking to them than reading about them.
Yeah. And so if I was looking for all the other spray foam contractors that are out there that are looking for employees, do you
Yep.
guys have a honey hole that you guys go to where you find some successful people? Is there a posting platform that you're looking for, job
No.
applications or how do you guys find your people? Online post
Network.
networking.
Network. We start calling people. We just start calling people we know. We start calling people that we've worked with in the past, and we call here and we call there, and
Yep.
uh, and where we live is a smaller community. We're Coolidge and Florence. We're right in the middle of are two not very big towns, and so a lot of people,
Mhm.
and somebody's got a cousin or somebody's got a friend or somebody's got a sibling or a kid or something that's looking for a job or something. That's kind of how we found people.
Yeah.
We tried a little bit of, just posting on our Facebook page, hey, we're hiring. And we get a lot of candidates that way, and a lot of time is spent sorting through those candidates. And just the human network has done better for us than anything else.
I love it. I love it because I think sometimes people, business owners want to overthink things.
Yeah.
Well, I need to hire somebody. I just don't. There's all these places to go find people. I just don't know where. Or I could start posting in, some of the Facebook spray foam groups about somebody wants to move to
Yeah.
Arizona or whatever it is. And there's so many different ways of getting people. And then sometimes people get just stuck because of the paralysis by analysis, if you want to say
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, and we are in a very competitive market for employees and a very competitive market for spray foam. I mean, Phoenix is a hot market, and there is a lot of big boys that can swallow up that employee base fast.
Yeah.
Um, so we're always diligent of that, and the fact that we're not living in the metropolitan Phoenix area, a lot of those candidates don't want to come drive 30, 45 minutes to our shop to go to a job site when they can drive 5 or 10 minutes to somebody's shop up in the valley
Yeah. That
and
makes
go
sense.
that way. So,
Makes
so
sense.
we ended
But
up with our little local network.
yeah, for sure. And you have mentioned that you guys run a really lean and mean crew. Tell
Mhm.
us about how many people you guys have employed right now.
So right now we're like 6 plus my wife and I, and then my kids when they're not in school.
Yeah,
So
so that's sounds to me like you got just barely. You don't even have 2 bodies to be on each truck, like what you're talking about since you bought the new rigs.
yeah, yeah. I
Kind of
mean, one of them sits parked unless I take it out.
got it.
Yeah. So
Um, Awesome, man. Well, let's transition a little bit into like what your guys' goals are as a company for 2025. Do you guys have any major things that you guys have forecasted that you're looking to obtain?
So, we're looking at adding another crew, so we can keep the machines, utilized and working pretty much full time for us. Um, when things allow, we've got some older equipment that's going to need to be replaced. And so we're looking at that. We've been in such a growth mode that we're looking at this year, like maybe just kind of sit stable for a year,
Yeah.
kind of just, aggressively take care of our existing customers, aggressively take care of the markets we're in, but maybe not try to push it as hard as we've done.
Mhm.
Um, uh, a big goal is this transition of my position at the business is
Yeah.
to get to the point where, I was talking to Kristen this morning. I'm like, what? One time this year, I'd like to take 7 to 10 days and not have a single contact with the business and it run at 100%.
What's your concern right now? Can you not do that?
My micromanagement is the biggest concern of why I can't do that.
Sounds like
100%.
Dan's the problem.
Dan is the problem with a lot of that. Exactly.
You just send Dan to an island by himself with no devices.
That's exactly. So that's one of our big goals there. Last year we were able to dip into quite a bit of commercial work, and we're working to push into more of that. I've got a relationship with a supplier right now, with the guys at Energy Fox Solutions that make commercial work very feasible for us.
Mhm.
They're on the spot with everything we need, material wise, parts, labor, mechanics work if we need it. They are so dang good to us that that's a big tool in our tool belt to help us keep working through this commercial thing. Hate to
Yeah.
shamelessly plug somebody, but they earned it.
No, of
They're
course.
good folks.
If they're taking good care of you guys, that's not a shameless plug in my opinion.
Right. So as we've gotten more commercial work, we're working towards a lot of that. We've never been really a retrofit company. New build construction has built us. We have a lot of really good repeat customers in the new build market that have kept us out of a lot of attics. And nobody at my company is dying for me to start promoting the retrofit business.
I don't think that anybody is, especially in Arizona, man.
Hey, this time of year it's beautiful in an attic.
True, right? Like, oh, it's nice and toasty up in here. Come on. Nobody's going in there.
No, nobody's going in there. And so, we're gonna probably keep working that direction is keep that new build flow coming in. Try to build a few more regular business contractors that, are using us, week in, week out for things. And maybe just try to settle the pace down a little bit and kind of enjoy the ride on the tracks we've started our way down.
Hell yeah, man. I like that. I do. I would battle myself, and I know I can tell you're a competitive guy. So this is like this is a big ask for Dan to kind of put a little bit and not want to just completely keep exploding the business because there's the voice in your head that's like, I got that one rig that's sitting. We need to get that thing going. The thing's not making money when it's parked. What do we got to do to get there? On the flip side of things, you got hey, I need to take off some of these hats in order for me to enjoy my life. And that work-life balance, I think is very, very difficult, especially when you're a business owner and it's not like punching a clock. I mean, I know for myself, I can work easy 12-hour days and still have a lot of work. And it's like, where do you draw the line? Is it 5 o'clock and you're clocking out and you're like, okay, well, I got to go spend some time with the family. I got to eat some dinner and have some Dan time and chill out.
Yeah. Hey, well, that's exactly right. And the joke around our house is I waste 4 hours a night sleeping that I could be perfectly productive.
Is that your wife putting the pressure on you, or is that Dan putting the pressure?
That's yeah, everybody telling me to slow down. I mean, everybody's told me for a year and a half now that like, hey, what you're doing is not sustainable for the long run. And I'm like, hold my beer.
Yeah,
Watch me do
watch
this.
me do
But
this, right? And
but
it's difficult.
wisdom is starting to set in a little bit.
Yeah, I think wisdom as your business owner, but also on the flip side of things, there comes a period of time when your body can only take so much,
Correct. Yeah.
and the stress, but also on the flip side of things too, you have payroll that you have to be making, you have
Yeah.
jobs you need to be landing. There's a lot of
Yep.
pressure as a business owner. Do you find dealing with that pressure? I mean, would you ever go back, I guess, to a 9 to 5 working for somebody else, or would you much rather
No,
have the situation you have now?
no. I was never any good at working for somebody else. I was always too independent. And the company I left to start this company had an ownership that basically turned their eye to everything I did. They just said, "Here's the jobs, and whatever you need to get it done, get it done." And so it was owning my own company without the benefits of it, basically, because I did everything I felt like needed to be done to keep that going. And um, to this day, the owner of that company and I are very good friends. And he trusted me with everything, I guess, to do it.
Yeah.
And that was the only way I could ever work for somebody else.
Yeah, so it's almost like you cut your teeth as a
Yeah.
business owner with that other company, but yet didn't have the stresses and the pressure to
Right.
make sure that you're making that payroll.
Yeah.
Um, what a amazing opportunity for you, and a great place to start in order to set yourself up for the future with
Yep.
this company.
Exactly. Yep. For
Well,
sure.
let's transition in. I know that a little birdie told me you guys are experts with barn doors. Tell us about the
So
barn dominium
we
business
have
down there.
yeah, we have a great time. We have a great time with the barn dominium deal. It's a network of people that are just different. I mean, they're they're rural type people. They're independent. They're kind of take care of themselves kind of folks. So we mesh really well
Yeah,
with those people. A lot of owner builders that do it. Very few, general contractors are building one or another or multiple barn doors at a time. So we live in one ourselves right now and have built a couple of them. And we just got into this network of them and we spray a ton of them. I mean, probably 2/3 of them in Southern Arizona, we've had our hands in. Um,
that's
and
amazing.
they're unique. Yeah. And they're unique and they're different. And every one of them you go in to see, or every person you talk to, you have to have the mindset of this is going to be different than the last one you saw.
Yeah,
um, and you've got to prepare for it, and you need to prepare your crews for it. And at the end of the day, it's a heck of an accomplishment to have that strength in a market. And it's been a lot of fun because we've helped several of the counties and stuff here in Southern Arizona write the codes for fire blocking barn dominiums because there's some unique challenges in it. And we've been able to do that with foam and intumescent coatings.
it's amazing. And when we were talking pre-show, you're
Yeah.
telling me that anytime these uh, officials, the government people
Mhm.
that are regulating you guys down there, whenever they
Yeah.
see that your guys' name comes across the desk to spray the barn dough, it's like almost like they know you're going to do an excellent
Right.
job, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's a reputation we've created with those guys that we protect it for everything we've got. It's an amazing stream of leads that, they don't tell you that they can recommend you to somebody,
Yeah.
but I don't know that they carry anybody else's business cards. Uh,
Well, technically, maybe they're doing something that they shouldn't be doing, but when you're the best at something,
yeah.
that's I'm sure as a person that's doing the inspections and things of that nature on these, they don't want to go out and find out that somebody screwed up a job.
Right. No, exactly. And one of the high ranking code officials here in our county and I talked about it is fire blocking is a personal safety issue. Um, we're keeping flame spread and stuff in a house down, and the last thing either of us would want on our shoulders is knowing that somebody was harmed or died when it was something we could have easily done up front.
Yeah, for
And
sure. That
you
would
know,
be difficult.
yeah, exactly. So when we started through this problem with the draft stopping and fire blocking in the walls of these barn dominiums, that was the approach we took on it. Was we need to do this in a way that the eventual homeowners' kids are safely asleep in their beds at night. And if a
Yeah.
smoke alarm goes off, they can get out without this big fireball surrounding them. And that, again, that was the approach we took. And that's how we came up with the solutions that we did and why we came up with the solutions that we did.
Do you feel like you guys are trailblazers when it comes to the barndominium business?
Yeah.
Is this something that people are doing in other parts of the country? I know there's barn doors being built, but as far as the fire, safety that you guys have figured out, is that something that's kind of unique to you guys, or?
I haven't heard of any other companies doing it the way we do it here. Yeah, I haven't come across them. Some guys are using rock wool and things like that to do it. But the way we're doing it with foam and intumescent coatings, I don't really know of anybody else out there that's doing it.
Yeah.
And if you're outside my market and you want to learn about it, give me a shout. I'll talk to you about it.
I'm thinking maybe this might be a second little business for you to be traveling around. I'm sure your wife wouldn't like this because she probably wants you. But once you get yourself freed up, be traveling around to other states and teaching on how you guys have, really got these code enforcement people in your back pocket.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. No. And like I said, it's been an amazing trust thing that they have with us, and it was just the right couple of people with the right thought process. And we researched codes, we worked through things. We talked to the intumescent coatings people and made sure we were doing things right. And it all came into place.
Yeah, love it, man. Toolbox talks.
Yes. The toolbox talks on safety. Yeah, the spray foam mafia, as we call it.
Yeah, let's talk about the spray foam mafia. I'll make sure that we'll link you guys down in the show notes for the podcast. But tell people about the spray foam mafia, what it's all about, how you guys kind of got started with this.
So it all got started off of a joke we made at one of the UPC university trainings. And Jeremiah Schoenberg is my co-host on that deal. And Jeremiah always has these little one-line things. I think one of the first ones was spray foam is the meat in a construction sandwich. And he comes up with all of these. And Kristen made a comment one day and said, Jeremiah, we ought to be putting you on video or something like this. And a couple weeks later, he called us and said, hey, you guys opened your mouth. Guess what? We got to do this now.
Yeah.
And that's where we came up with the whole idea of these toolbox talks. It's so hard in this industry to take time to do those talks, but they are extremely important. Mm-hmm. And I think about the days of one rig, and Jackson, my son, and I are driving 20-30 minutes to a job, and both of us, our heads are geared into, what do we have coming up? And nobody ever just stops and talks about things. But the radio's on,
mm-hmm.
And so we thought, okay, if we could do this an approach where it could be played in the truck, crews are all together in a pickup, driving to a job, whatever, they can play it. And hopefully it starts a conversation of, oh, we've got that scaffolding that's got a bad wheel on it. We better switch that out. Or the sales guy said this house was dirty, so we better show up and make sure that, we don't have nails sticking up that we're going to puncture a foot with. or, I mean, there's so many different levels to safety, but the whole approach was, let's make it easy. Let's make it quick. Let's make it something guys could talk about in the truck, and let's do it different than, I always called it, the shiny hard hat guy with a clipboard and a brand new safety vest on that wants you to change your lifestyle to fit this mold of safety. And so that's where we started is, okay, we're going to talk like real people and talk in a way that industry people talk, not, the safety man, the old Johnny Cash song, "Ohlone, we're coming after you," kind of thing. But that was the whole approach to it. And so we started out, an episode or two into it, we started dragging in some other people to help us with it. And we've had some really great guests, some people that were, Rusty Schrader is one of those guys that him and Jeremiah and I and Miguel Mora sat down and we're talking. And Jeremiah, Rusty, we want to have this like Rusty's wreck of the week and just have Rusty tell us something that he's been into that was just like, how did you get into that point and how'd you live through it? And so anyway, that's the whole point of behind it is, just Jeremiah and Kristen and I are all sitting there one day thinking, we're taking a lot out of this industry. We took a bite out of a competitive market, and, Jeremiah at that point had switched over to UPC from SWD, and we're all thinking, okay, now's our chance to give something back. And hope at the end of the day, somebody somewhere around the world didn't get hurt that day because we talked about safety glasses, or we talked about driver safety, or we talked about, just basic application parameters. And it's cool because we start looking at the data that's coming back in, and we have like a group of regulars in Ireland that listen to every episode. And
it's impressive.
I don't know where those guys are, but one of these days I'm going there and we're going to a pub together. Kind of thing. And,
right?
Exactly. Saudi Arabia, up and down the Pacific Rim, we have a handful of people. The US guys, the Canadians, some South American guys. It's kind of funny that you wouldn't think a bunch of, just down home people from Arizona could do this and have reach like that. And it's been cool to watch. It's been fun. We've seen some really gruesome stuff. Josh Carney from Graco came in one day with some pictures of a guy that had a high pressure injection of polyurea coatings in his hand. I guarantee you will not walk anywhere near spray foam equipment without gloves on after you've seen that.
Yeah.
And I hope somebody else is doing that too. I hope somebody else saw that and went, "Oh, damn, I can't be like that," and are doing the same thing.
Yeah, because I think that there's a lot of people that get into this business that don't realize the health issues that the foam can cause.
Correct. Yeah, exactly.
And if I remember correctly, Dan, you were telling me when you first learned how to spray that you weren't really PPF'd up or didn't really have the proper protection. Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, we were some of those that just kind of started out. And even up to a few weeks ago, 4:00 in the morning, I was out doing a repair on one of my rigs and was just negligent, didn't throw a pair of safety glasses on, and there was a shot of resin went right into one of my eyes.
Oh man.
And
you're like, God, I can't tell people this because I'm the safety guy.
And worse and more than that, I decided I better do an episode on confessing my sins to the world. You're
like, I gotta do.
That's exactly right. Yeah. And it was just so many. We'd had a lot of breakdowns, a lot of long days, a lot of late nights, early mornings that just led to me not reaching 10 feet away and throwing a pair of safety glasses on. And that's the way accidents happen. Yeah. It's never typically one just little event. It's usually things that lead up to it. And again, that it's just our approach to talking about it differently. We don't want to recite OSHA rules to somebody and say, 1.204 says you need to have this or you need to have that. And nobody cares at that point. This people in this industry are not those that typically learn from being lectured at in a classroom.
Yeah.
They learn from hands-on.
Yeah. Most blue collar.
Yeah. And so it's a lot of fun. I mean, we have a great time with it. We drive my wife crazy when we're recording. It goes off the rails so fast, and she has so much editing she has to do.
Oh, Jesus.
But I think that's part of what helps make it unique and organic too.
Well, and like you're saying, I think the guys are responding a lot more to contractors talking about it versus some suit that's like, oh, the government says you need to do X, Y, and Z. But also, I think there's that you've humanized a lot of the issues or the safety concerns to where like, shit, dude, I just had my brain wasn't working the other morning and I had resin shooting my eye. Like if I had done what I preached to all you guys to do, that things would be doing, I wouldn't have this situation. So how do you guys typically come up with the topics? Is this something that kind of all you guys are just thinking about as you're out in the field working, or?
It's funny. It's funny. We get fed a lot of topics.
Okay.
We have a lot of people that will shoot me a text and be like, hey, this happened on a job site, or I heard about this guy over here, or this is something that's been bothering us on our crews. Or, it's really funny that other people kind of have taken ownership of it with us and just say, hey, we'd like to hear this, or we'd like to know something about that, and previous guests that have come on are always talking to us like, hey, I was over here at this place and they had this going on, and maybe that's something we ought to talk about. Or they'll call them like, hey, this guy's a good contact for you. And so we've had this list that we made up early on, and it was 75 or 100 topics.
Yeah.
And we may have touched on 3 or 4 of them that we picked out, and the rest of them have been something that came up with somebody else. And
I love it.
We've had so many of them just go off the rails that, we started out talking like the focus of this conversation was going to be, equipment maintenance and safety. And next thing you know, we've got a picture of this swelled up, mangled hand in front of us, and we're talking about pressure injections.
Yeah.
And it just, that's how we've basically gotten topics together on it.
So it sounds like anybody that's tuning into this episode of the Foam to Fortune podcast, if they have any safety stories, reach out to Dan.
Heck yeah.
Either get you on the show or just you could tell the story and Dan can educate people on how to be safe out there in the field. Yeah.
Oh, exactly. And we've been blessed that the guys at UPC have backed us 100%. With Jeremiah seems to make one phone call, and next thing you know, UPC is throwing resources at us to get this thing done, and very quietly. Like, they don't really want their name attached to a lot of it, but we've had this big giant network behind us that people have been able to tell us things, and if they want to be discreet about it, we don't have to say, oh, it was Joe Blow from Minnesota that had this go on.
Of course, some of them, I'm sure it's pretty embarrassing.
I would bet it is. And so I always said it's surprising the guys that are brave enough to tell about these stories. Really surprising some of the stories people have lived through. But and so so we have like the Spray Foam Mafia Facebook page. I think sprayfoammafia@gmail.com's our email address. And there's a little web page, little Spray Foam Mafia web page that my wife has all kinds of little stuff she puts on it. I think we're even building a page of the crap Jeremiah says, so we can have all his one-liners on there. And everybody can get a hold of us on that. And the other thing we tell everybody is use us as a resource. This little network we've gotten is big. And if you need help with something, that's the point of us being there, and that's why we're doing it. Don't be afraid to reach out.
I love it.
Yeah.
Make sure that you guys are following the Spray Foam Mafia and submitting your safety concerns or stories with Dan and Jeremiah, because it sounds like they're going to take this and run with it and really educate all the spray foam contractors out there. So
yeah.
I'm curious, Dan, is there maybe a handful of things that if you had to start over with another spray foam company that you would do different than what you guys currently did?
Number one, let people make mistakes. I have micromanaged my way into a position that my people are having to be retrained away from me being the one-stop shop resource for any little thing that goes wrong. I believe that's been my number one mistake.
Okay.
Through the whole thing. The other thing I would tell everybody to do from the get-go is reach out, get training. It's everywhere. You just have to look around and ask about it. I went for a long time with a supplier that didn't give me enough backup, and definitely not anywhere near what we have now. And so I was kind of floating out there on my own. And so if anybody's going to start over, I think one of their big secrets to succeeding early would be get training, get those resources, and get you a little Rolodex of somebody you can call when things are starting to go awry.
Yeah, like a rusty trader.
Yeah, exactly. And
somebody
prime name to say. Yeah, there's a lot of those guys out there, and you know, Spray Foam Worldwide is that, you know, you kind of have to sort through a little bit of being chastised for not knowing something, but there's also 5 guys that'll be the first ones to push the button and say, I did that. I screwed that up. Here's what you don't do. So that, I mean, that's a big thing.
Yeah. And the one thing that I also have learned the older I get is, and I see this with my kids, is allowing them to screw up, because that's where you learn. A good friend of mine that records in the same studio records a podcast called the Failure Podcast. And he brings on guests on here and just chats about the failures. Like, we as entrepreneurs, we have failed so many times. And if you haven't, and you're an entrepreneur, you're a liar. You're
exactly.
Because we are always screwing up. And it's crazy. I have young 13-year-old daughters, twins, that I always talk about, because they see what they're in their mind, a dad that's somewhat perfect, right?
Yeah.
Like, doesn't screw up. I'm like, honey, I could tell you 12 things I screwed up today. And they're like,
yeah,
Dad, really? I'm like, yeah, of course I screw up all the time. And so allowing that person to really learn from their mistakes is going to take you as a business owner from being, you know, like you said, you get asked all these little questions. You're like, Jesus, can't you do this on your own? It's like, well, that's why you trained them, Dan.
That's exactly right. And they literally, it's Pavlov's dog, you know, the bell rings and here they come. It's and that's been a mistake. You know, not as prevalent when it was just me, you know, when I'm one rig, but as we've grown, it's coming back to haunt me. And again, my poor people that are now having to be retrained because of the mistakes I made there.
Yeah, of course. But the great thing about it is that you're aware now that there's a problem.
Right. Exactly. The first step is admitting you have a problem.
Now you can go to rehab. It sounds like you're in the middle of rehab with
I am
not allowing people to walk on their own and learn and make mistakes. So that's amazing.
Exactly. Yeah.
Gosh, I as you're talking, there were some things that I started to think about, but let's go ahead. I know we're approaching an hour here. Dan, I really think that there is a huge problem within the industry when it comes to just training, licensing, a governing body. What's your take on that? I talk with a lot of spray foam contractors all throughout the you know, we'll just say North America because of our friends up in Canada.
Yes.
And Canada has really, with the help of their government, and from my understanding, it's a little bit too harsh of some laws up there, but it sounds like
Yeah.
they've kind of figured some things out. What's your take on what we need to do here in the States?
So, yeah, I believe that the basis of everything we need to do here is going to be training based. Canada, those guys have gotten regulations. I guess they've had to accept the amount of regulations they have. Um, Out here in the Wild West, we wouldn't take that very well. But the other hand of it is the benefits that come from that regulation are good for the industry. And the only way our industry gets better is by training people to do it right, do it better, know when it's wrong. Um, and we spend a lot of time on training in our company. I mean, probably more than a lot do. And we're not afraid to ask for more training, even when we think we're doing it right. So I think there's a basis on that. I know there's a lot of talk about, trying to get suppliers and everything to monitor who they sell foam to, which I think is a great start. I think the suppliers could start to regulate like the unlicensed people, the guys with no contractor's license. Get everybody CIP certified at the beginning. The SPFA is working on a lot of programs. The PCP training stuff's already in place.
Yeah.
And they're working on an apprenticeship program that I think is going to be really good. And I think the companies in the U.S. need to self-regulate before we get the government in place.
Exactly.
I hate to use the term bully, but we almost need to bully the guys out that are bringing us down.
Yeah, it's one of those things that a major concern in a lot of markets, especially hot markets like Arizona. You're telling me how, not temperature hot, how hot it is for spray foam companies. Is that myself that has never sprayed spray foam a day in his life, I can go buy a rig and be in business and go and really screw up people's homes that are large investments. And if you think about other industries, if we're talking about HVAC or plumbing, those electrical, those are all licensed, careers. And in order to be able to perform that trade, you have to have a license and some training. Where with the spray foam business, Chuck in a truck can go fire up, and next thing you know, and I'm a competitor, and he's underbidding you, and it just becomes this whole big mess. And I think it's a double-edged sword. It's number one, the underbidding that's killing a lot of great companies like yourself.
Yes.
As well as people screwing things up, and then great companies like yourself have to come in and rip all that out. Now the homeowner is on the hook for, tens and twenties of thousands of dollars.
Oh, easily. Yeah, very easily.
So I think the regulation is something that if the industry, guys like yourself, can figure out if it's the SPFA that's going to be, the licensing governing body of things, and then just push everybody that goes through that to where you actually get an accredited badge or something of that nature, to where now it's like a marketing piece for you guys. Like, hey,
exactly.
Don't use anybody that doesn't have this thing.
Right. No, exactly. And I think the industry in general could get more localized and do it better. The SPFA is a national agency. Maybe there should be a Arizona or Oregon branch or something like that, where you can deal with the issues, on a more localized basis, because what affects the way we apply foam in the desert is different than the upper Midwest does it. And
True.
so it's hard to put a blanket on everything. But yeah, I think industry-wide certification program, and probably an apprenticeship program, not, an apprenticeship and journeyman program, would be well received.
Well, and certificates for, a master open cell sprayer or a master closed cell. And, there's just so much variation, but I think that we need to start somewhere right now
Yeah,
because it's
no,
gonna be
exactly.
control.
If you don't, you'll end up with the regulations like Canada has.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is that the last thing that the industry wants is some suit in Washington, D.C. that's telling Dan how to spray foam in Arizona that's
Correct.
never even sprayed foam.
That's
And
right.
that's extremely scary. It doesn't matter if you're a restaurateur, if you're a
Yep.
marketing company, a spray foam company, whatever it is, to have somebody tell you this is how you're going to do your job.
Yes, exactly. Right.
Not-
No, that's the last thing we want. And yeah, we're a proud, typically we're a proud group of people that know how to do it right and believe in our way of doing it right.
Yeah, exactly. And if you're dealing with legit companies out there, yes, you might pay a little bit higher of a price tag, but they're
Yeah.
going to do the job correctly, and you know that it's not going to be toxic for your family to be in there. Because you and I both have seen these stories on the Facebook groups about, man, they went in this place, it smelled like rotten fish, or
Right. Yeah.
the chemicals ratio
Yeah.
was off, and it's raw material in there. And I mean, that to me scares the crap out of me as a homeowner to think about.
Right. And my concern is at what point are we going to get to where insurance companies are looking at us? Or, I mean, there's big barriers that could hit us hard that we're not really thinking about that much you know, if code officials start saying, we're going to inspect you guys a lot harder, we're going to make it harder on you, or insurance companies are saying it's going to be more costly to insure it for the homeowner. Those are the things that are going to hurt us bad. Regulations we could live with. A barrier to the market we can't get over.
True. Well, I think we're both on the same page. I think a lot of the companies that are on the legit companies out there probably agree with you. So that's amazing. That sounds like you're going to be heading up some of this licensing with or pushing that direction. I guess
We're going to be stuck with another podcast about licensing next if we keep running our mouth.
for sure, man. Dan, I know I want to be respectful of your time. We're approaching an hour here, but how can people, I guess, get in touch with you? Obviously, we've talked about the Spray Foam Mafia. People need to be checking out the Facebook page, shooting emails over. But as far as if there's anybody that's out there that's looking just to connect, either in your guys' local Arizona market as a buddy, or any people out there nationwide that want to connect with you to pick your brain or just have another connection, because I know that the spray foam business. In the short period of time that I've been around you guys, spray foam contractors, you guys are all, for the most part, obviously there's some rotten apples out there, but for the most part, you guys are always willing and open to help people. So how can people get in touch?
So the easiest way to get a hold of us is right through our Facebook page, the Spray Foam Arizona. My wife does a fabulous job of marketing that and watching it, and that's the easiest way to get a hold of us by a long shot. Is hit us up right through that. We do have a website that's sprayfoam-arizona.com. My email is sprayfoamarizona@gmail.com. We try to keep it simple to get a hold of us.
For sure.
But and like I said, anything you have, reach out. We'll do our best to help anybody. We've made mistakes. We've had bad days. We don't really need anybody else to suffer if they don't have to. So
true. Like rely on these guys that have the experience in the trade, and not allow yourself to make some of these mistakes. As much as we have been talking about making the mistakes, there's certain mistakes you don't want to make, because it's going to be very costly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, don't let it be the mistake that takes you out of business.
Exactly. Because I know that there's spray foam companies out there on a daily that are going out of business just because whatever reasons. So, well, Dan, I really appreciate you coming on. For all those that are tuning in, make sure you guys check out Dan. Go over there to the Spray Foam Mafia page and submit your questions and concerns on safety. I truly appreciate you coming on to the Foam to Fortune podcast. And I wish you all the best of luck in 2025.
Cool. Yep. And good luck with your podcast. I hope this thing takes off and runs with you.
I know I have no doubt that it will, man. If I can get a whole list of people just like yourself out there, you send your buddies and friends over and I will get them on the show.
Cool. Sounds great.
Thanks, Dan, for the time.
All right. Thanks, Spencer.
See ya.